Hi, friends! Thanks for joining me for an Advent lesson. I'm super excited that we get to celebrate this season together because we get to discover week after week, day after day, hour after hour that Jesus came to this earth, born for us, born because God loves us. And that is something that we get to discover all the time, and it's a great thing to share with all of our friends and family, especially around Christmas. So, if you have your Advent storybook that you picked up for me with your Crossview Kids Advent Kit, I want you to go grab that right now. We are going to read from day number 6 because today is December 6th, and I believe it's on page 20 if you want to find that with me. All right. Yes, day number 6, page 20. It looks like this, and it's titled, A Promise Kept. All right. Just like that. Okay. All right, ready? Here we go. Abram kept waiting for God to give him a son. He waited and waited and waited. After many more years, Abram and his wife Sarai got tired of waiting. In that time, men sometimes had more than one wife. That was not God's plan, but people didn't trust that God's plan would work. Abram and Sarai didn't trust God to keep his promise to give them a great family. So Abram had a son with a different wife. 13 years after that, God came and talked to Abram again. When Abram saw God, he fell to the ground. Abram had made many mistakes, but God was not angry with him. God reminded Abram of his promise. God gave Abram a new name, Abraham. Abraham means father of many. God told Abraham that he would have a very, very big family. Nations would come from him. Kings would come from his family. That's kind of like a big thing to wrap your mind around, right? I mean, how big is a very big family? My family's only got 4 people in it, right? There's me, Mr. Dan, he's my husband, and there's my daughter Zoe, and my son Dustin. Now, 4 people, it can be big, a lot going on in this household. But I mean, I know families that have even more than 4 people in them. I know people that have families with 5, 6, 9 people. But I think God meant a big family, a bigger family than 9 people. Let's find out. God also promised that Abraham's family would have their own home in a place called Canaan. And best of all, God made a special friendship promise that would last forever. A covenant to love Abraham and his family and to be their God. Abraham had waited so long. Could he trust in God's promise? All right, pause again. What do you think? Could Abraham trust in God's promise? So, we talked about this before with our Simply Loved curriculum, right? That God always keeps his promises. But we don't always know when his promises are going to be complete and come true and happen in our lives. But they always will, right? Because God doesn't always tell us everything that's going to happen or how it's going to happen. We just have to put our trust in him. That's what Abraham was trying to decide to do. Now, do you think he did? Or do you think he was like, nah, see you later, God? No, he definitely decided to trust God. Let's keep reading. God gave Sarai a new name too. He called her Sarah. Sarah and Abraham were very old. They both laughed at the idea of having a child in their age. But God kept his promise. A year later, he gave them a son. Even though they had stopped trusting God, he still loved them and gave them good things. They were so happy to have their son, Isaac. God remembered Abraham and his family again and again of his promise to love them and be their God. And he reminded them that one day a promised son would come who would destroy evil and make everything good and new again. Who do you think that promised son is? Give you a clue. His name starts with a J. He's born in a manger. And his name rhymes with Jesus. from Ramona and Beezus. Okay, if you haven't read that book, you need to go read it. Tell your parents right now they need to read Ramona and Beezus. Okay, anyway, um, Jesus, that's right, Jesus is that promised son. Okay, so let's figure out what our question is. What good gifts has God given you and your family? Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so let's see. God gave Abraham and Sarah the gift of the son Isaac. Let's see, what has God gifted me personally? Okay, I'm going to do one for me and then one for my family. God gifted me an amazing husband. Dan, Mr. Dan is my best friend, and he takes care of me, and he loves me, and we both get along really, really well. We both like to play board games, and we like to tell silly jokes, and we like the same TV shows, and he loves God too. That's like the biggest and bestest thing about him, and he's a great father. He's a great husband. So God's gifted me with an amazing guy named Dan. Let's see. What has God gifted my family? Let's see. My family has the gift of a new home. So we've moved this year. We're renting a new home, and it's big enough for all four of us. The kids have their own rooms, and there's room for the tools in the garage, and we can park a car in the garage still. And there's plenty of room for the kids to play, and there's a fenced backyard for the dog. It's great, and there's really awesome neighbors next door, and that we really get along with, who are Christian, and we have lots of really good conversations, and the kids are really sweet in the area. Zoe and Justin get along with them great. So God has given us a new home to live in with a great neighborhood. What about you guys? What has God given you? What has he gifted you? And what has he gifted your family? Go ahead and talk about it with mom and dad or brothers and sisters. Maybe even your grandma or aunt and uncle if you want to call them on the phone. That'd be really cool. I'm sure they'd love to hear how God has blessed you during this year. All right, friends, thanks for joining me. I will see you next week. Don't forget to bring your Advent storybook next week, because we'll be going over, I believe it's day number 13. All right, see you later.